Exercise right to vote with family and groups in festive mood without hesitation. Let this election day be marked as birthday of new Bangladesh, says Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus addressing the nation. Interim government to transfer authorities swiftly to elected representatives, says Chief Advisor. Campaign for 13th National Parliamentary Elections ends. Ballot papers reached all 299 constituencies. Overall preparations at polling centres underway. Comprehensive security strengthened, centering election. 3-tier security system implemented, says IGP. Member European Union election observation mission starts working across country. It expresses EU's unwavering commitment to Bangladesh's democratic governance system, says Chief Observer Ivaz Iyabs. Inauguration of a media center and hotline service for journalists on occasion of elections. EC Secretary urges media to stay alert against misinformation. Voters rushing to respective constituencies to participate in voting festival. Buses and train stations overcrowded with homebound people. Bangladesh signs agreement on reciprocal trade with United States. Reciprocal tariff rate reduced to 19% from 20%. Bangladeshi garments using cotton and fibers imported from US eligible for zero reciprocal tariff. 7 Palestinians killed in Israeli attacks in Gaza. Trump opposes measures to strengthen Tel Aviv's control in occupied West Bank. And ICC not to take any financial, administrative or sporting action against Bangladesh for boycott T20 World Cup. Bangladesh's opportunity to host an ICC event by 2031. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to News at 10. I am Roya Zabin. You have just heard the headlines. Now news in details. Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus has urged voters to attend polling stations in groups with their families in a festive atmosphere and to exercise their right to vote freely and without hesitation. He made the call while addressing the nation this evening on the occasion of the 13th Jatiyo Songhrad election and the referendum on the implementation of the July National Charter. The Chief Advisor also urged the electorate to make the February 12 election day the birthday of a new Bangladesh, saying that voters themselves will write the history of the country's glorious future. He said the government has taken maximum preparations to ensure a free, fair, neutral and peaceful election, noting that a record number of law enforcement personnel have been deployed, along with armed forces members vested with magisterial powers to prevent any disorder or violence. The Chief Advisor called on all candidates to place national interest above personal or party interests, regardless of the outcome of the election results, and reminded them that both victory and defeat are integral parts of democracy. He emphasized that a vote in the referendum is not merely a stamp on a piece of paper, but a decisive choice that will shape the future of the next generation, the security of families and the overall direction of the nation. Professor Yunus cautioned against deliberate disinformation campaigns aimed at creating fear and confusion, urging citizens to verify information and use the Election Bondhu hotline 333 for accurate updates. He dismissed rumors that the interim government would not hand over power as baseless propaganda, assuring that authority would be transferred swiftly to the elected representatives.
নির্বাচন অবাধ, সুষ্ঠু, নিরপেক্ষ ও শান্তিপূর্ণ করতে সরকার সর্বোচ্চ প্রস্তুতি গ্রহণ করেছে। এবার রেকর্ড সংখ্যক আইন শৃঙ্খলা বাহিনীর সদস্য মোতায়েন করা হয়েছে। পাশাপাশি ম্যাজিস্ট্রেসি ক্ষমতা সম্পন্ন সশস্ত্র বাহিনীর সদস্যদেরও ব্যাপকভাবে দায়িত্বে রাখা হয়েছে, যাতে যে কোনো ধরনের বিশৃঙ্খলা বা সহিংসতা দ্রুত ও কঠোরভাবে প্রতিহত করা যায়। প্রযুক্তির সর্বোচ্চ ব্যবহার নিশ্চিত করতে প্রথমবারের মতো সারা দেশে ব্যাপক পরিসরে সিসি ক্যামেরা স্থাপন করা হয়েছে। ভোট কেন্দ্রে দায়িত্বরত কর্মকর্তারা শরীরের সাথে সেটে রাখা ক্যামেরা ব্যবহার করছেন। নিরাপত্তা ও নজরদারিতে ড্রোন ও ডগ স্কোয়াড ব্যবহারের ব্যবস্থাও রাখা হয়েছে। এসব ব্যবস্থার একমাত্র লক্ষ্য ভোটাররা যেন নির্ভয়ে, নিশ্চিন্তে ও সম্মানের সঙ্গে তাদের ভোটাধিকার প্রয়োগ করতে পারেন। নির্বাচনী প্রক্রিয়া শুরু হওয়ার পর থেকেই আমরা লক্ষ্য করছি একটি চিহ্নিত মহল পরিকল্পিতভাবে গুজব ও অপতথ্য ছড়িয়ে নাগরিকদের মনে সন্দেহ, ভয় ও বিভ্রান্তি সৃষ্টি করার চেষ্টা করছে। তাদের উদ্দেশ্য একটাই, নির্বাচনের শান্তিপূর্ণ পরিবেশ নষ্ট করা, জনগণের আস্থাকে দুর্বল করা। আমি আপনাদেরকে অনুরোধ করছি, সতর্ক থাকুন, দায়িত্বশীল থাকুন, যাচাই না করে কোনো তথ্য শেয়ার করবেন না। গুজবের বিরুদ্ধে সবচেয়ে বড় অস্ত্র হলো সচেতনতা ও সত্য। আপনারা নিশ্চিত থাকুন, নির্বাচনে বিজয়ী জনপ্রতিনিধিদের কাছে দ্রুততম সময়ে ক্ষমতা হস্তান্তর করে অন্তর্বর্তীকালীন সরকার তার দায়িত্ব সমাপ্ত করবে। আমরা গণভোটের আয়োজন করেছি, যাতে দেশের ভবিষ্যৎ সংস্কার দিশা নির্ধারণে জনগণ সরাসরি নিজেদের মত প্রকাশ করতে পারেন। এই গণভোট বাংলাদেশের ইতিহাসে একটি নতুন মাইলফলক হয়ে থাকবে। এখানে আপনার প্রতিটি ভোট আগামী দিনের রাষ্ট্র ব্যবস্থার ভিত্তি রচনা করবে। এর প্রভাব থাকবে বহু প্রজন্ম জুড়ে। এই ভোটের মাধ্যমেই আপনারা জানিয়ে দেবেন আপনারা জুলাই সনদের প্রস্তাবিত সংস্কার কাঠামোকে এগিয়ে নিতে চান কিনা। আপনাদের সিদ্ধান্তে নির্ধারণ করবে রাষ্ট্র কোন পথে অগ্রসর হবে, শাসন ব্যবস্থা কোন কাঠামোয় গড়ে উঠবে এবং একটি নতুন বাংলাদেশ কিভাবে তার গণতান্ত্রিক ও মানবিক রূপ লাভ করবে। আপনারা দলে দলে সপরিবারে উৎসবমুখর পরিবেশে ভোট কেন্দ্রে উপস্থিত হয়ে দ্বিধাহীন চিত্তে আপনার ভোটাধিকার প্রয়োগ করুন। আপনার মূল্যবান ভোট দিয়ে নতুন বাংলাদেশ গড়ার দরজা খুলে দিন। দেশের চাবি আপনার হাতে, সেই চাবিটি সঠিকভাবে ব্যবহার করুন। এবারের ভোটের দিন হোক নতুন বাংলাদেশের জন্মদিন।
Election campaigning for the 13th National Parliament election and referendum ended at 7:30 a.m. today. The campaign period began on 22nd January. The country is now waiting for the National Parliament election and referendum scheduled for 12 February. Voting will be held simultaneously in 299 parliamentary constituencies across the country from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. using ballot papers and transparent ballot boxes. Meanwhile, the Election Commission has imposed restrictions on the movement of certain vehicles on the polling day as well as before and after the vote. According to Election Commission directives, motorcycle movement will remain banned from 12 a.m. tonight until 12 a.m. on 13 February. Besides, from midnight today until midnight on 12 February, the movement of taxi cabs, pickup vans, microbuses and trucks will be prohibited. However, vehicles used by law enforcement agencies, the armed forces, the administration, authorized observers, emergency services, as well as those carrying medicines, medical supplies, healthcare-related goods and newspapers will remain exempt from the restrictions. Centering the simultaneous referendum and the 13th National Parliamentary election scheduled for February 12, the Election Commission is making last-minute preparations across the country. Strict security measures have been put in place to maintain law and order situation. Analysts say the outcome of the next parliament and the referendum will be determined by the responsible roles of all stakeholders and the participation of voters. According to the Electoral Code of Conduct, election campaigning must end 48 hours before voting begins. Accordingly, candidates' campaign activities ended at 7:30 a.m. on Tuesday, and the Election Commission is now awaiting polling day. The Election Commission has said that preparations related to ballots, polling centres and manpower are almost complete to ensure smooth voting. Around 9 lakh security personnel will be deployed, including 1,08,000 members of the armed forces to maintain law and order during the election. In addition, more than 1,000 executive magistrates will be on duty. Risk-prone polling centres have already been identified. In this election, a total of 500 foreign observers, including journalists and election observers, will monitor the voting. The Election Commission hopes that polling will be held in a peaceful manner and that people will express their opinions spontaneously. The total number of voters in this election is 12,77,11,793, of whom more than 6,48 lakh are male and over 6,28 lakh are female. There are also 1,232 voters of the third gender. A total of 2,034 candidates from 51 political parties are contesting in the election, including 275 independent candidates. Bangladesh Nationalist Party (BNP) has fielded the highest number of candidates. This is followed by Islami Andolon Bangladesh, Bangladesh Jamaati Islami and the Jatiya Party. However, voting in the Sherpur 3 constituency has been temporarily suspended due to the death of a Jamaati Islami candidate. Analysts have also warned that the Election Commission must remain alert and vigilant so that misinformation, rumors and deep fake videos on social media do not incite violence or disrupt the electoral environment. Law enforcement agencies have strengthened overall security ahead of the 13th parliamentary election and referendum. Inspector General of Police IGP Baharul Alam said this at a press conference at DMP's Central Command and Control Centre today. Referring to security arrangements, he said measures will be implemented in 3 phases. The IGP further stated that more than 1,87,000 police personnel will be deployed for the election. For enhanced security, technology will be used extensively. CCTV cameras have been installed in 90% of polling centres. Body cameras will be deployed in high-risk locations and police superintendents will use drones, he added. Explaining how risky polling centres were identified, he said a total of 8,770 centres have been classified as vulnerable, considering factors such as remoteness, candidates' positions, voter sentiment, dominance and other issues. He added that 16,000 polling centres have been categorized as medium-risk ones. Baharul Alam assured that measures have been taken to ensure voting occurs peacefully and in a festive atmosphere. Replying to a question about firearms looted from police stations, the IGP said that any firearms pose a threat and noted that arms also enter the country through various means. However, all necessary measures have been taken to address this, he said, adding that to ensure free, fair and peaceful elections, strict regulations have been imposed on legally owned firearms. Responding to a question whether there was a possibility of militant attacks around the election, the IGP said, although the militant network has been dismantled, the risk of a militant attack cannot be ruled out ahead of the election. However, the agency has taken measures to deal with any possible attack, he said, adding that several people have also been arrested based on the information that there were plans to attack during the election campaign. After a long wait and many ups and downs, Bangladesh now stands on the threshold of what is considered the most important election in the country's political history. This election is being viewed as a pivotal turning point in overcoming the nation's democratic crisis. The entire nation is eager to build a desired new Bangladesh. Analysts say that the government and the Election Commission must remain firm in ensuring a free, fair and impartial election. Security analysts believe that special monitoring and round-the-clock patrols are necessary in conflict-prone areas to ensure the safety of general voters, election officials, and candidates in the electoral field. They stress the importance of staying vigilant so that any provocation or rumor does not turn into violence. At the same time, analysts emphasize that responsible behavior by political parties and ordinary voters is important. Analysts expect that if all sides act responsibly and Election Commission maintains a strict stance, this long-awaited election will prove as a milestone in the pages of history. The European Union EU Election Observer Mission paid a courtesy call on Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus at the State Guest House, Jomuna today. The delegation was led by Member of the European Parliament and Head of Delegation Tomasz Zajewski. Members of the EU Election Observer Mission were present at the meeting. Later, the Japanese Election Observation Mission paid a courtesy call on Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus. The delegation was led by Ambassador and leader of the Japanese Election Observation Mission, Masato Watanabe. Members of the Japanese Election Observation Mission were present at the meeting. Earlier, an election observer team of the US-based International Republic Institute, IRI, met Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus. Former Congressman David Dreyer led the 5-member delegation. Principal Coordinator for SDG at the Chief Advisor's Office, Lamia Murshid, and senior officials from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs were present at the meeting. The European Union Election Observation Mission has intensified its monitoring of the country's upcoming 13th national parliamentary elections. Chief Observer of the European Union Election Observation Missions, Ivars Iyabs, said this at a press conference in the capital today. He said 90 short-term EU observers, STOs, were deployed to observe election day proceedings in all 64 administrative districts. Their work will cover the opening of polling centers, voting, closing, ballot counting, and the tabulation of results. The STOs will be present in cities, towns and villages in almost every constituency. The head of the mission said the STO's deployment builds on the work of 56 long-term observers who have been in Bangladesh since mid-January, monitoring the pre-election environment, including election administration preparations, campaign activities and voter education, while engaging with a broad range of political and civil society stakeholders. The mission is further reinforced by a delegation of members of the European Parliament as well as 35 locally recruited short-term observers from the diplomatic missions of EU member states and partner countries including Canada, Norway and Switzerland. At full strength, more than 200 observers will work during the election. The EU Election Observation Mission said it will present its preliminary findings at a press conference in Dhaka on 14 February. A comprehensive final report, including recommendations for future electoral processes, will be submitted to the authorities after completion of the electoral process and made public on the mission's website. The mission operated under a strict code of conduct, requiring neutrality and non-interference, and conducts its activities in line with the Declaration of Principles for International Election Observation endorsed under United Nations auspices. Expatriate Welfare, Overseas Employment and Law Advisor Dr. Asif Nazrul has said huge number of women voters are going to vote in the upcoming poll compared to any previous elections. He said this in a meeting with the Commonwealth delegation that came to Dhaka to monitor the 13th parliamentary election. The meeting took place at the conference room of Expatriate Welfare and Overseas Employment Ministry today. Asif Nazrul told the delegation that the country is getting a representational parliament and opposition. Informing that the interim government has taken ahead the reforms, the advisor expressed the hope that the next government will continue such reform agendas. Election Commission Senior Secretary Akhtar Ahmed has urged the media to remain cautious against the spread of misinformation during the 13th National Parliament election. He made the call today while inaugurating a media centre in the capital and hotline for journalists covering the election. Information and Broadcasting Secretary Mahbooba Farzana and Chief Information Officer Mohammad Nizamul Kabir were present at the event. Describing misinformation as a major challenge in the upcoming parliamentary election, the Election Commission Secretariat's Senior Secretary emphasized the need for a responsible role by the media. After a long time, city dwellers are heading to their respective constituencies to cast their votes in a festive atmosphere. Since this morning, a huge rush of homebound people were seen at Gabdoli Saidabad and Mohakhali bus terminus, as well as at Komlapur railway station in the capital. Many people are leaving early with their families for their home districts. The familiar Eid-like scene has returned to Komlapur railway station and the city's bus terminals. Transport operators have said that the crowd is expected to increase further from tomorrow. A total of 471,957 postal ballots of expatriate voters registered through the Postal Vote BD app have reached Bangladesh to cast votes in the upcoming 13th parliamentary elections and referendum. According to sources, a total of 7,66,862 ballots have been sent to expatriates registered through the app. Of them, 5,28,233 expatriates have received their ballots, while 5,12,916 have already cast their votes. Besides, 5,02,487 expatriate voters have submitted their ballots to the post offices or postal departments of the respective countries. Among those, returning officers have so far received 4,19,919 ballots. Apart from abroad, the Election Commission EC has sent postal ballots to 7,60,898 registered voters residing within the country. According to the latest EC data, 5,80,841 voters inside the country have received their ballots. Of them, 5,34,376 have cast their votes and 5,408 have submitted their ballots to post offices or mail boxes. Returning officers have so far received 3,10,154 ballots. It may be mentioned that a total of 15,33,684 voters at home and abroad have registered through the app to cast votes by postal ballot in the Jatiyo সংসদ elections and referendum. Legal obstacles to the candidacy of 3 BNP candidates in the 13th National Parliament election have been cleared. The candidates are M.A. Qayyum, Mufazzal Hussain Kaikobad and Qazi Rafiqul Islam. The Appellate Division gave the decision after hearing leave to appeal petitions concerning their nominations in Dhaka 11, Kumilla 3 and Bogura 1 constituencies, which has faced challenges over allegations of loan default and dual citizenship. The hearing was held today before a bench of the Appellate Division led by the Chief Justice. Earlier on Monday, the Chamber Judge Court of the Appellate Division had fixed the date for the hearing. Now, international news.